Farm Progress Broadcast presents This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry. Brought to you by Case IH, solutions for every challenge, equipment for every farm. Case IH, built by farmers.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here for This Week in Agribusiness. I'm Mike Pearson. Harvest continues across the country, and some farmers are still working on getting those corn and soybeans out in Kentucky, no less. This week's Agronomy for Your Acres with our friends from Nutrient Ag Solutions takes us to Akron, Kentucky, where Matt Baker, nutrient crop consultant, has been working with his growers. And Matt, how's harvest coming along in your part of the state?
We're probably 40 or 60 to 70% done with our corn harvest. Corn yields, a lot of my customers I think are pleasantly surprised with their corn yields. They're slightly above average or above expectations. Our soybean harvest is probably 40 to 50% complete, and soybean yields are good, but not anything to write home about. We had a lot of dry weather late that really affected our seed size on soybeans. We've got a lot of small beans, and seems like a lot of the plants kind of died prematurely. So that's really kind of taken some of the top end off the soybeans.
Absolutely. Those small beans seem to be common nearly everywhere this year. Matt, but with your farmers wrapping up harvest, I'm sure thoughts are turning to next year's season. What's on growers' minds as you talk to them in the combine?
Yeah, so we're making seed variety selections for 2025. We're talking about our wheat crop is starting to go in this week. Probably here in the last 7 days, a lot of our wheat has gone in, and we're talking fall fertility and cover crops. We're applying cover crops now. We're starting to do some fall burn down, and here in short order, we'll be doing a lot of soil sampling as well.
Soil sampling, of course, crucial. When we've got input costs where they are, you want to make sure you're maximizing the return on those investments. What sort of soil sampling will you guys be doing here as we get into fall?
We'll do a lot of just random sampling in some of these fields, but we've kind of started picking up our grid sampling quite a bit.
When you think about grid sampling, how does that differentiate itself from random sampling? What's the agronomist do that's different?
So when we grid sample a field, for example, we'll be grid sampling this field after harvest here behind me. We will take this field and break it up into 5-acre grids. We also do 2.5-acre grids. We're doing 5 acres on this customer, but it gives us a higher detailed view of how fertility and pH and all of these factors vary in a field, as opposed to coming out here and random sampling and using a flat spread method for fertility. It gives us a much higher and much more precise idea of what's happening and how things are varying in the field, and helps us unlock some nutrients also that are either lacking or tied up or due to pH, and allows us to correct those.
Absolutely, and I imagine it allows you to have more options for variable rate applications as well when it comes to fertilizer.
Yes, sir. We typically kind of look at pH and how pH varies across the field, and we'll create a variable rate lime recommendation for this customer, and we'll come out here and variable rate spread the lime, and then we will sit down this winter and look at fertility and try to stay within a budget, but also not short the fertility to the next crop coming in.
That's what it's all about. You got to have gas in the tank to get that next field across the finish line. If folks want to learn more about grid sampling, they can drop into any Nutrient Ag Solutions office and learn more at nutrientagsolutions.com. Matt Baker, thank you so much for speaking with us this week.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Save instantly when you buy 2 or more eligible Firestone Ag tires during the Firestone Fall into Savings promotion now until October 31st. Visit firestoneag.com or contact your local certified ag dealer. This week, we're going to discuss the ag industry broadly and some of the uncertainty that is heading producers' way with John Newton. He's the new executive head at Terrain. And John, thanks for taking the time to speak with us.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Well, this is a new position for you. You're a new face at Terrain. Can you fill us in a little bit? What is Terrain broadly, and what are you excited about this next year?
Well, Terrain's a great group of analysts, and I think one of our analysts, Dave Weber, puts it, he says, look, we cover everything from apples to wine, A to W. So we've got grain market specialists, protein specialists, a great wine specialist, specialty crops. I mean, we cover the whole barnyard, every area of ag, and we're strategic thinkers. So we're thinking about some of the challenges that agriculture is dealing with, not only today, but in the years to come, and how do producers use the information that our analyst provides them to make informed business decisions for their farm operations. And that's a service that the Farm Credit System provides. American Ag Credit, Farm Credit Services of America, and Frontier Farm Credit are the providers of Terrain.
Absolutely. Bringing that data and the expertise to growers. You mentioned you cover everything. Mm-hmm. Nearly every aspect of agriculture is facing uncertainty and challenges this year. John, what are your analysts most concerned about as we roll through harvest season here?
Well, I think, on the grain side, look, this crop got bigger. Corn yields are record high. Soybean yields are record high. So obviously, there's a lot of attention on demand. We know margins have tightened in 2024. Crop prices have come down from the lofty levels that we saw in 2022. Input costs remain elevated, and we've seen that materialize in the farm economy. Net farm income has seen the steepest two-year drop of all time, according to USDA, and the pressure's really being felt by the crop and specialty crop producers. The livestock side is faring better. Cattle and dairy farmers are better than they were last year, and hog producers, net farm income for the average hog farm family is projected to be up about 11% this year, but that's 11% off the floor. We got to remember that the hog industry is coming out of one of the toughest times that they've seen in quite a while. So there are a lot of pressures in the farm economy, and we're paying attention to all of it. Again, to help the customers make informed business decisions today and in the years ahead.
John, you mentioned the big crops we've got coming out of fields across the country right now, both corn and soybeans. As we grapple with that supply situation, I imagine your team is keeping a close eye on demand as well. Are there any bright spots as you look out to the future for either corn or beans?
Well, I think folks are real excited to see the big purchase from Mexico this week. But Mexico is a consistent buyer of U.S. corn. So obviously, we're watching the weather conditions in South America. You're watching Chinese and where that demand could potentially be. You're watching renewable fuels. You're watching ethanol. You're watching potential developments with sustainable aviation fuel. I mean, there's so many areas that impact agriculture that we have to follow so that we can give informed information to those farm credit customers.
So it sounds like there is some demand out there. It's just a matter of making sure it makes sense for these growers.
Oh, there's always demand, and I think where these prices are today, it's an attractive price to buy corn or buy soybeans, and I think we'll see it on the export side. But obviously, you got to watch what's happening in South America. We have to continue to be vigilant on what's happening on the livestock side as well. So we're watching all the segments of agriculture. We're watching the wine industry, which in some parts of the country is coming out of some pretty tough times as well.
Lots to watch here in the ag industry. We'll be back with more from John Newton, the executive head of Terrain. Save instantly when you buy 2 or more eligible Firestone Ag tires during the Firestone Fall into Savings promotion now until October 31st. Visit firestoneag.com or contact your local certified ag dealer. We're discussing the state of the ag industry this week with John Newton, the executive head at Terrain. John, thanks for talking with us.
Thanks for having me on.
So now you have spent many years in Washington, D.C., working as an economist for various politically connected groups. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, as you look out to the future, policy seems like it is going to be a huge issue for agriculture. John, what's Terrain thinking as you look ahead to this wild political fall that's in front of us?
Well, I think what we're watching is the Farm Bill, right? Because there are so many risk management tools that are authorized by the Farm Bill, whether you're looking at ARC or PLC on the grain side, you're looking at crop insurance, which is now widely utilized in the livestock space as well. So watching the Farm Bill to see what happens, how those programs may change, and then from Terrain's perspective, helping producers understand those changes, how they impact their decisions, how we can use these new risk management tools or enhancements to the risk management tools that come out of the Farm Bill to make more informed business decisions.
John, so you think we're going to get a farm bill? You're confident that we will have one at some point?
You know, we always get a farm bill done. Sometimes they take a little bit longer than others, and I think you know, members are back home right now, and they are hearing from producers what it's like in the farm economy. I think they'll come back after the election motivated to get something done. We just saw 2 devastating hurricanes come through the southeast that impacted agricultural producers. Poultry producers were impacted. There's likely to be a disaster package there. Whether or not there's anything that is a supplemental bridge to help agricultural producers has been discussed. So I think, again, all eyes are on the Farm Bill, all eyes are on Washington, D.C. When it comes to what type of enhancements we can see in the risk management tools that agriculture depends on.
All right, so we'll continue to push Congress to make some action there on the Farm Bill. John, as we think for where are the bright spots for agriculture today, we are an industry that relies heavily on debt. Interest rates do seem to be coming down. Is this maybe just the start of something longer term?
I think one would hope that it is. We saw a 50 basis point cut a couple weeks ago. I think you start to look at the inflation report that we saw. It was a slightly hotter than expected inflation report, but at only 2.4%, right? So it wasn't 3% or 4%. It wasn't a dramatic reversal. So I think folks are looking at the Fed to potentially see more rate cuts over the next 12 months. And then for a farmer, does that provide an opportunity to reprice some of that debt at lower interest rates, release some of the pressure on these record high input costs that folks are facing around the country?
One of the drivers of those record high input costs is record high costs for farmland. John, this is something we've seen a trend in place for 10 years. Is that projected to continue in your mind?
Well, I think we've seen in some of the areas that we monitor, some of the farmland values have come down slightly, and then that's to be expected when crop prices have declined as sharply as they have. I think the corn price fell faster than we've ever seen it fall before over the last few years. So that's going to have an impact on agricultural land values. But look, there's a great song. They're not making any more dirt. And so agriculture is a smart investment. Farmland is a smart investment. But it will ebb and flow with the expected returns out of agriculture.
That makes sense. John, before we let you go, exports crucial to American agriculture. Do you see us getting back on that export swing next year?
Exports are incredibly crucial for U.S. agriculture. I was looking at the data this morning. Exports this last crop year to China fell pretty sharply, and China's a major customer for U.S. agriculture. When China is involved in U.S. agriculture is in better shape. So I think there's going to be a lot of focus on exports next year with the new crop that we're harvesting right now. And that'll factor into the decision making that farmers start to think about in the spring next year.
Lots to watch as this goes forward. John, for folks who want to keep up on the work that Terrain is doing, where would you send them?
Terrainag.com is where you can find all the information. I mean, we have so many excellent analysts on the team. Terrainag.com is where you find the information.
John Newton, Executive Head at Terrain, thank you so much for speaking with us this week.
Thanks for having me.
Greg Solier now brings us his farm weather forecast for the week ahead.
Well, Greg, taking a look at the Pacific Northwest, what do you see coming their direction this next week?
Relatively quiet, uneventful spell of weather there. With this time of the year, things begin to get a little more rambunctious out of the Gulf of Alaska and points out of the east, but what we call a zonal flow west to east. No big ridges or troughs in the steering current, so systems just kind of move along. And at times, though, when these winds marry up with low-level winds, the jet stream pattern brings about drier air, downslope conditions, and no wonder we're still dealing with fires, especially across parts of Big Sky country. In any event, maybe a couple of sprinkles here into the Nebraska Panhandle, nothing going on moisture-wise as we move on through Northern California and the Pacific Northwest. Those winter grains in the Northwest need some moisture. We'll get a couple of showers into the middle and late parts of the week from Northern California on northward, slightly cooler air towards the Puget Sound. Otherwise, to the east, it's more wind, some warmth into the Nebraska Panhandle. Keep an eye on the fires as well across Big Sky country. A couple of sprinkles expected farther south into the central plains. That's the northern extent of a system moving through the southwestern reaches of the country. And this little dip in the jet stream driving some degree of moisture. We'll have seen probably some localized inch or two totals by the early part of the week out of Colorado, parts of New Mexico, into the western reaches of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, with a couple of showers and thunderstorms there. All quiet of the weather scene across the valleys of California, moving along very quickly on irrigated cotton harvest across sections of Arizona. Get into the middle and late parts of the week. A little heat into Southern California, the Imperial Valley, desert Southwest. Some ridging reestablish itself over the southwestern reaches of the country. There may be a stray shower thunderstorm into parts of Oklahoma and Texas. And Mike, those winter wheat producers are holding off on any significant planting of winter wheat across the central and southern plains till we get more rain. Just don't see a lot going on for this week.
Well, I know a lot of farmers across the northern plains have loved the blue skies for getting the crop out, Greg, but we have increased fire risk as well with combines. Any shot of moisture for northern corn belt growers?
Really nothing of significance here. We got this system, as we mentioned, coming out of the southwestern reaches of the country. A couple of spotty showers in through Nebraska. 86% short and very short in topsoil moisture, between about 75 and 80% from South Dakota in through Iowa. It's always that juggling act. Need moisture this time of the year, got to get harvest done. And speaking of which, we'll make great progress into the eastern corn belt areas here for really a good part of the week. This weather system dampens out, moving to the Ohio Valley. It's a sprinkle activity, so no consequence to moisture recharge opportunities or a delay in harvest. Pretty quiet weather picture through the northern and central plains, middle and late portions of the week. Any heat into the Rio Grande Valley, a little dip in the jet. Again, some organized rains for the central and southern high plains areas, but weakening as it approaches the Ozarks. Quiet weather for the Delta and northeast from there for hurricane cleanup efforts and recovery. Some heat again through parts of Mexico. Maybe some tropical rains. There's an easterly wave way down across almost Central America that may enhance some rainfall there. Otherwise, pretty quiet weather picture on the southern plains into sections of the Ohio Valley later on into the week.
Does it stay quiet all the way to the eastern seaboard, Greg?
Yeah, by and large, nothing of significance. So as we get into areas of the Carolinas and westward from the recent spat of hurricanes, still a lot of work to do there. Windy, cool weather into the northeast of New England. We have ended the growing season, of course, last week with the frost and light freezes, but no big deal considering maturity and or harvest. A couple of rain sprinkles early to middle parts of the week. Central and southwestern corn belt back in another bubble of high pressure. Outdoor work galore. Opportunities for the late portions of the week as well. Over the southeastern states, very quiet weather picture. When was the last time we saw that? Over the southeast into parts of Texas and Oklahoma, a couple of showers and thunderstorms down through Florida as well. Onshore flow down south of Orlando, a couple of spotty showers here. Otherwise, we'll get into a little tropical system again, well south into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. And if anything does come out from the tropics, that's the place it comes out here in the coming weeks. High pressure and sunshine for outdoor work and recovery across the Carolinas into the Delta and Ohio Valley. We'll have that extended outlook, the 4-week outlook that takes us well through the month of November, coming up a little bit later on in the broadcast.
Closed captioning for This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Pentair Hypro, a global leader in innovative spray technology for farmers for over 75 years.
For a lot of us who grew up in rural America, harvest time is a time to go back to the family operation and lend a hand at the busiest time of the year. Recently, Chad Colby had a chance to visit a family farm in Illinois and visit with the CEO of one of the world's largest input suppliers, who was also home to help for harvest.
Energizing, therapeutic. I don't know what the right word is, but I can tell you I enjoy it.
Syngenta CEO Jeff Rowe leads the company from Switzerland, but he makes sure he comes back to the family farm in Princeton, Illinois, every year at harvest.
This is home. Yeah, this is where I grew up. The original Rowe farm is down by Henry, Illinois, and that farm Rowe started farming that in about 1830. So we've been in Illinois for a very long time. I'd be a 5th generation farmer here, and my son is on the farm. He's running the cart today. He'd be a 6th generation farmer.
Jeff says the innovation he has seen in agriculture in his lifetime is incredible.
You know, we're talking about innovation for machinery, genetics, chemistry, biologicals, you know, the drone, digital space. What I tell young people that are interested in agriculture, it's such a broad area, you can't even imagine the amount of innovation that's coming this way. We can now show in the field, like the impact of fungicides, for example. You know, you could go across the field, you could see it on the yield monitor you talked about, you could see it in the aerial pictures that you take with drones, that you could see that product is creating real value for the farmer. And I think our ability to make those decisions easier, simpler, more straightforward is part of our job and others in the industry.
Jeff has had the opportunity in his career to interact with farmers all over the world. While there may be some cultural differences, He says at the core, they're very similar.
When I talk to a farmer in India that's maybe a smallholder farmer, it's not so different than talking to a farmer in Champaign, Illinois. They're thinking about the same thing. They're worried about the land, they're worried about the yield, they're thinking about the next generation. So from that standpoint, I think we're kind of all starting from the same spot. I think what is really exciting about digital and the data connection is that we have the ability now as a company to interact with hundreds of millions of farmers because of our ability to use tools. Almost every farmer in the world has, no matter what their economic situation is, has a phone of some sort or access to information. So we could get very complicated messages to them, we could get very simple messages to them. And that's different. It used to be the only way that you could get to that many farmers is you had to have boots on the ground. You had to have an army of salespeople and agronomists out interacting with farmers. Now we can do it through a digital connection. And it's not just a, hey, how are you doing? Is it harvest time? It's, hey, we think that there's a reason for you to go out and apply an insecticide, or we think there's a reason for you to go out and apply a fungicide, or it's time to plant. These are real decisions that are important to farmers. The digital connection allows us to scale it at a much broader level.
Thank you, Chad, for that conversation with Jeff Rowe, CEO of Syngenta. You can hear Jeff's passion about the future of agriculture. And Max Armstrong joins us next, talking with a group of people who are passionate about agriculture's history and keeping that history running in parades and on the farm.
On Steiner Stories, from Steiner Tractor Parts, Brandy Erickson visiting here with us this week, talking about her role at the world headquarters of Steiner Tractor Parts. You've been here 15 years, I understand.
I sure have, yep. It's been really enjoyable working for Steiners. They treat us like part of the family. I couldn't imagine working anywhere else.
We're surrounded by folks talking to Steiner customers. You interact with them via a number of ways, number of different channels, I understand.
Yes, I work with customers from email to live chat, phones. You can reach me multiple ways. Fortunately, we don't have texting yet, but that's in the future as well.
Do you enjoy talking with the customers?
Yes, the customers are the highlight of my day. If you're in a good mood and you want to joke, I like to joke too. I want to help you buy your parts. If you're in a bad mood and you're upset over something, I want to make your day better.
Some folks will come to you with problems. They're not sure how to solve the issue that they have, and you enjoy working through those with them.
Yes, yep. They're trying to make something work on their tractor, then I will give you as much advice as I can to help you get the right parts, get you back in the field and moving.
You interact with them via the chat function as well, I understand, and that's a little bit different, isn't it? There's not as much personality that comes through there, I suppose.
No, live chat is very different than over the phones. A lot of those questions are about the process of how our website works, and they typically go a lot faster than a phone call would go.
One thing I have found in the past that your website does work remarkably well. I mean, it's easy to use, it seems like.
Yeah, we have a parts picker feature on our website, and that you just put in your make and model of your tractor, and it pulls up every part that we carry that fits your tractor.
One thing that folks talk about after they have been on the line with somebody from Steiner is how great the experience is. You try to leave them with a good feeling, don't you?
Oh, definitely. We're a family-owned business. The owners treat us like family. That encourages all of us here to treat our customers like family. We want to help them get their parts. There is no press 1 to talk to somebody in returns, press 2. The minute you call in, you're getting a live representative as soon as we can get on the phone with you. Just to help get things taken care of as quickly as possible.
Brandy Erickson here at Lennon, Michigan at Steiner Tractor Parts. New parts for old tractors.
Thank you, Max. It's no easy feat to keep all of those old machines running on the farms. It's great to have trustworthy people working with farmers to keep it going. Folks, leave it here. When This Week in Agribusiness returns, we'll have another of our Plan Smart, Grow Smart series.
Farm Progress Broadcast presents This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry. Brought to you by Case IH, solutions for every challenge, equipment for every farm. Case IH, built by farmers.
Welcome back to This Week in Agribusiness. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mike Pearson. Across the country, resistant weeds continue to be a thorn in the side for growers, no matter what it is they're producing. Max Armstrong recently had the chance to visit with a Missouri farmer about how he's dealing with weeds on his farm in this installment of our Plant Smart, Grow Smart series from BASF.
I've had a few growers tell me that their late planted beans maybe did the best for them last year. Planting early has worked for you.
It has, and that's what last year, great yields around here, and I attribute a lot of it to just getting the seed planted. When you get stuff planted, especially soybeans, and you get that crop emerging, there's a lot of things you don't have to fight.
Let's talk again about your seed selection. Zetavo came onto your radar screen. How did you choose it to put in this year?
Yes, retailer farms himself, which means a lot. You've got people you work with, they can always tell you, this works, this works. He's planted some, and he knew it, and he recommended it, and you got to trust the people you're working with.
What are the weed pressure and resistance issues that you face in this particular area where you farm in Missouri?
Weed pressure, water hemp's number one. We're starting to get some mare's tail that is getting tough to take down. Cover crops are getting big, it helps a lot, but as far as just true weeds, water hemp, it's the number one enemy.
What herbicide program do you use? How's it been working for you?
We use a lot of Zidua, and we have used Zidua Pro before, and we always like burning our first app down after our soybeans have emerged. And that buys us a little time. You know, we get that cover crop killed, we get the residual in the ground, and then we let it do its job and keep moving. But we like those beans getting really close to canopy, come in full rate of Liberty.
With the Liberty Ultra registration out there on the horizon, would you consider switching to it?
Everything goes with conversation with our retailer and with our rep, but you know, we've been using the Liberty product for several years, and anytime they have an upgrade or you know, a new product coming, it's worth discussion to look into.
Liberty has performed well for you.
Very well. You know, crop safety, you don't really, the drift issue is very, very safe with it, and you know, you get it at the right stage, and if you do what you're supposed to do, you know, we run a lot of water for as much coverage as we can get. Good sunlight. The hotter it gets, the better it works. We've used Liberty for several years, and it's performing.
Thank you, Max. And folks, you can see our full series online at PlanSmartGrowSmart.com.
Greg Solier is back now with his extended farm weather forecast for the nation.
Earlier in the program, Greg, you mentioned that it's going to be quiet next week from a precipitation perspective for most, but some people are going to get something. Yeah,
once again, southern plains, especially high plains areas, and particularly early on into the week, and there may be some opportunities late in the week as well, but we think these inch or two totals will have played out primarily early on into parts of especially western Oklahoma and the Panhandle, West Texas cotton. There's a little tropical weakness if something comes out because of so much wind up aloft, sheer across the Atlantic is going to be way down through the Caribbean and southern Gulf. So there may be something trying to come out later in the week into the western Gulf. Still not done with the tropics, by the way, mind you, October and well into November. Scant moisture for the Corn Belt, the northeast of New England. Late in the week in particular, maybe a 1.25 inch into sections of the Pacific Northwest. So no major autumn storms, no major rounds of cold. Pretty quiet weather picture for the continental U.S. for this week.
How about the end of October, first few days of November? Greg, what do you see?
That warm ridge is still there. It'll be oscillating, vacillating back and forth. And, you know, it's been responsible for some of this 80 to 85 degree weather across the Dakotas and through parts of the plains up near 90 over the past few weeks. But warmth here, no big consumption on the oil usage or the power for one at all. Staying warm and comfortable here in this autumn season. And it's a comfortable go of it with outdoor work. Combines going full tilt. Remember, safety first over the Corn Belt. We need rain across the plains for those winter wheat fields. Something here, maybe something there. We're not done with this even despite an early November, almost election day calendar day up and down the eastern seaboard with wet weather there in the tropics again. Expected to stay busy well through the month of November.
Any cool-off expected week of November 4th?
Nothing of real significance. Matter of fact, a little juxtapositioning of the warm ridge from here to here. So maybe 80-degree weather into parts of the southern Great Lakes region here. Yeah, that's record-setting, at least well into the 60s and 70s for much of the Corn Belt locales. Normal temperatures here. A little dip, a little cool-off slated for the desert Southwest, valleys of California, Pacific Northwest, where we do get some moisture going here. That's good news. We need moisture in the winter wheat fields, and, you know, we need to get it in before things firm up and freeze up across the Corn Belt, but this is idyllic to wrap it up from a harvest or fall cleanup season. And hydrous application, different story with all the warmth in the soils. Maybe some tropical issues here and up and down the eastern seaboard with wetter weather continuing on there.
How about take us to November 17th, Greg?
Gee whiz, there's just not a lot going on. A little dip in the jet. We think something's cooking by then still in the western Atlantic. So we'll kind of pull down somewhat chillier air. Nothing long lasting, nothing barbaric. The warmth getting suppressed back over the southwestern reaches of the country. Moisture wise, high and dry across the nation's midsection. Wet weather across the Gulf Coast, up and down the eastern seaboard. And keep an eye still in the tropical basin.
Our Farm Progress Roundup is sponsored by Brandt Industries. Lead the field with Brandt's lineup of versatile high-speed discs and achieve better results with every pass. Visit Brandt.ca for more. Matt Youngman serves as the National Events Director for Farm Progress, and ordinarily we talk to him on a show site or traveling between the two, but this week we're catching up with him in a little different location. Mr. Youngman, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you, Mike.
So now you are back home in western Illinois on the family farm. Give us an update. How's harvest progress coming along?
It's going really well. I mean, like most of the Midwest, we have not had many rains, if any at all. You know, since I got home from Husker Harvest Days, we started that next Monday, and I think we've had one day that maybe we could have run, but we took the day off because of rain. And you know, looking at the forecast, it looks like we're going to continue to wipe this crop out pretty fast.
Given that dryness, Matt, are you noticing any hit on yields, or are they still coming in as expected?
They're coming in as expected. We haven't seen much of a hit. You know, there's been some times here where we're going from field to field and kind of chasing the moisture down. It is all dried down really fast as we've been through these cornfields. But you know, for the most part, we've got one farm that got a little bit of a tornado damage, came through it. Otherwise, everything has been standing really well and yielding well, drying down fast. And you know, it's other than some lines here and there and a few breakdowns, everything has gone really well this fall.
Well, that is good to hear, Matt. Hopefully it continues to go well as you wrap up harvest. I'm curious, given your position with Farm Progress, the fact that you get to see every square inch of every Farm Progress show, do you find things at the show that then you have to bring home to the farm?
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't send me to the show with a checkbook. So sometimes I have to go back and sell it a little bit. But it is great to have the opportunity to see all of this new technology as it's unveiled and then kind of watch the evolution of it, you know, watching the evolution of everything from auto steer to drones to vertical tillage and everything else. You know, you have the opportunity to see it right as it's breaking, and then watch it as it evolves through the industry and either does or doesn't become part of everyday life here out on the farm.
That's what it's all about, Matt. And of course, you'll wrap up harvest and then you're back on the road. Farm Progress kicks back off. We've got the Organic Grower Summit in Monterey, California in December. Give us the details. Who needs to go to that?
Yeah, the team's working really hard on that. That's kind of the one that's got the full court press on it right now, getting ourselves ready for a show the first week of December. It is new. It's only our second year with that event. Owning that event, it's been around for several years. You know, it's kind of for anybody who's either deeply involved in organics or maybe even just thinking about making a move towards organics, because you know, there's some education on both of those fronts.
Absolutely. And folks can learn more at organicgrowersummit.com, as I understand it. Matt, we'll let you get back to harvest. Thanks for joining us this week.
Good to be with you, Mike. Thank you very much.
Next on This Week in Agribusiness, it's Max's Tractor Shed, where we spotlight another great American farm tractor. In Max's Tractor Shed this weekend, I'm sharing some comments about those big collections that are being brought to some of the tractor shows. Max's Tractor Shed is brought to you by Mystic Lubricants. Mystic Lubricants are made to make it last. Well, I've been thumbing through the pages of the Half Century of Progress show book, which, by the way, is still available at octanepress.com. And in the show book, there were articles about the big farm oil collection at the Half Century of Progress last year and the Alice Chalmers D21s. Cindy Lattage did a great story about that effort, bringing together some 235 Alice Chalmers D21s from all over the United States. Well, now we're hearing already of plans for 2025, even though that show is more than 300 days away. The 1206, made by International Harvester, will be 60 years old next year. And a well-known collector, Kristen Gall, who is in Macon County, Missouri. I think he's not too far south of Kirksville there, maybe in that area around US 36 as it cuts across the Show Me State, has the 1206, and he wants to bring together 350. Kristen is already planning with some friends to bring to Rantoul 350 of those tractors made 60 years ago by IH. They made them from 1965 to 1967, about a 100 horsepower tractor. That is a tall order. No wonder you start more than 300 days ahead of the show. But there'll be a bunch of determined IH fans there, and they may indeed achieve that goal. Here's Mark Stock with his weekly report from Big Iron Auctions.
Well, hello, Max. As harvest is in full swing across most of the country, one would think that the auctions would start to slow down, but in fact, it's quite the opposite. With today's online bidding technology and mobile apps, people can attend auctions from bidding from the cab of the combine or in the line at the elevator. In fact, October the 23rd, 793 items will sell to the highest bidder on Big Iron. One of the featured sellers is the Donald Morgenstern Estate from Hoisington, Kansas. 47 items will sell, including a 2011 Versatile 340 four-wheel drive tractor, a Versatile 2335 four-wheel drive tractor. There's a 2010 Gleaner R66 Combine and a 2005 Gleaner R65. There will be several farms and ranches selling, including the Judith Bradford Estate property in Sedalia, Missouri. 34 acres with a residential home will sell to the highest bidder on October 22nd. Also on October 22nd, 1,438 acres of Harper County, Oklahoma land will sell in 2 tracts. And on Thursday, October the 24th, 52 acres of Woodford County, Illinois land will sell in 3 tracts. So whether you're looking for machinery or real estate, all you have to do is visit Big Iron and Sullivan Auctioneers.
Our FFA Chapter Tribute is brought to you by Pioneer, developing new generations of seed innovations for new generations of farmers. Pioneer, what's next happens here. We're going to meet Avery Cole this week. Avery is serving as the Vice President for the Kentucky State FFA, and thanks for taking the time to join us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your background. Did you grow up with a farm or ranch background?
Absolutely. I grew up on my family's horse farm. We're located in Bowling Green, Kentucky, right off I-65, and we have about 60 acres with just over 40 horses.
Wow. And I understand through your time growing up in that operation, you've been able to give back to the community a little bit with the horseback riding.
Absolutely. Growing up, showing horses, participating in my family's riding lessons, and just being in that atmosphere, I think really helped me to become the person that I am today. So as I entered FFA my time in high school, I started to think about what I wanted my SAE to be. And at first it started with simply me taking care of my own horses, but eventually that evolved. I noticed that in my community, it's becoming increasingly more urban, with fewer and fewer people being connected to the farm. So I decided, with the help of my family, to provide free horseback riding lessons to youth within a local horse club, so that they could experience what it's like to own and care for a horse themselves.
That's fantastic. That's the kind of outreach we love to see in agriculture. Now, Avery, you've got a year ahead as a vice president in Kentucky. What are you excited about?
What I'm most excited about is the people. Already, I've been able to meet so many wonderful members across the Commonwealth through my travels, and I'm really looking forward to just having more of that throughout the year, being able to visit chapters and go to different events.
There's a whole lot to look forward to with the FFA. Avery Cole, thank you so much for speaking with us this week.
Thank you.
Colby Egg Tech is brought to you by PTX, a new brand from AGCO that includes precision ag technologies from Precision Planting and PTX Trimble. Last week, Chad Colby got us an in-the-cab view with the new Case AF10 Combine, and it generated quite a response on social media, so he's back this week with more details.
So on our tech segment last week, we talked about Case IH's new combine with a farmer in central Illinois. And there was so much activity about it, I wanted to talk to a Case IH dealer. So sitting here in the cab with me is Michael Schmidt. Michael, 5th generation Case IH dealer, is that correct?
That is correct.
So Michael, you've seen a lot of things over the years in equipment, whether it was the first Steigers, certainly the 8010 combine. Things like technology make huge leaps. And I think we're in the middle of one. Talk a little bit about the conversations you've had the last couple weeks here with this combine in the field.
Yeah, obviously today the big important thing to everybody is to be efficient, and they want to do more with less, and especially in times like this, you know, every farmer, doesn't matter if you're a big farmer or a small farmer, you want to be as efficient as you can. And you know, the efficiencies we've seen with the higher horsepower tractors, 620s, you know, larger tillage tools, you know, it all correlates back into, you know, these bigger combines. It's like high-speed planters. I mean, I remember when those first came out, you know, it was like, we're really going to plant corn at 10 miles an hour? Yep, we are. And, you know, guys would go from 2 planters down to 1, or they'd go plant soybeans earlier and, you know, to get more done so they could get onto their corn. And, you know, that's where we're at with these big combines is can we be more efficient? You know, we're just, you know, we're averaging about 24 acres an hour here. We're taking just a small piece back here to finish up this field, but you know, 24, 25 acres an hour, running 4.5 to 5 miles an hour. You know, it's the automation has taken it so that, you know, anybody can get in here. I am by no means a master at setting a combine. I've got a lot of the ideas down, but when you can get in here and turn it on, pick your crop type and take off. I mean, the only thing I've adjusted on this combine since we started cutting soybeans with it was the concave clearance. Done loss checks. It seems like we're about 50% better than our flagship combine. And we're running bigger heads and faster speeds, so that's the big advantage.
Michael did take the time to show me the internals of this combine, and trust me, the efficiencies are there as well as far as from a maintenance standpoint. This is definitely a machine you'll want to check out at your local Case IH dealer. For This Week in Agribusiness, I'm Chad Colby.
Thank you, Chad. And folks, if you're not following Chad on social media, you should be. He's got all kinds of great updates. America's soybean growers continue to play a pivotal role in the growth of both biodiesel and renewable diesel. The CEO of Clean Fuels Alliance America, Donnell Rehagen, joins us now for an update on the industry. Donnell, thanks for speaking with us.
Well, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, there has been a tremendous amount of growth in your industry. Donnell, can you give us an update?
Yeah, you know, we started out 30 years ago, obviously with 0 gallons of fuel. We're up to about a 5 billion gallon a year industry right now. And not just for biodiesel, but we're producing renewable diesel and just starting also to produce sustainable aviation fuel. So our industry has changed immensely just over the last 5 or 6 years, and we're pretty excited about our future as well.
Donnell, so much of that growth in the industry comes from farmers themselves. Can you talk about the history of this movement and how farmers have played a crucial role?
Yeah, the nation's soybean farmers were truly the visionaries. I mean, they had this idea of turning soybean oil into a fuel, much like corn that goes into ethanol. And so that was their vision 30 years ago. And that vision lives on proudly today. As I mentioned, we're a 5 billion gallon industry. I'm not sure anyone thought that would actually be possible, but that has made a big difference to agriculture, to the soybean complex, and to offering clean fuels into this country.
Absolutely, Donnell. Now, we've heard a lot about the growth of the industry and therefore the number of feedstocks being used to make renewable diesel. Yeah. Are other feedstocks out-competing soybean oil?
I wouldn't say they're out-competing. You know, we're at a point, our industry a few years ago got to a point where we were growing at a pace far surpassing all of the domestic feedstocks that were available, not just soybean oil. So we're currently using over 1 billion pounds of soybean oil a month. That's about half of the whole entire U.S. crush. And so we're doing a great job utilizing that soybean oil, but for us to be the size we need to be, we need other feedstocks as well, and we're starting to see that happen.
And farmers, of course, want to see these markets supported. Donnell, that is a huge component of soybean use now as we look out to the future. Can you tell us a little bit about what Clean Fuels America has been doing to keep these markets open and viable for American farmers?
Yeah. Sure. One of the things that's really happening in a big way right now is expansion of low carbon fuel standard markets. So we would typically be talking about California or California only, but now we're seeing markets like that developing in Oregon, in Washington, New Mexico, possibly Minnesota, New York. So that low carbon fuel standard market is focused on the carbon intensity of the fuels and therefore the carbon intensity of the feedstocks. So for us as a trade association, we need to make sure that soybeans, vegetable oils are prominent in that marketplace and available to make fuels out of those feedstocks as well.
That makes sense, Donnell. Look down the line a little bit. To your mind, what does the future of clean fuels look like?
Well, I couldn't be more excited about the future. You know, I mentioned we're 5 billion gallons this year, 2024. We expect to be 6 billion gallons by 2030. So we're way, way, way on our way to our vision. So we may have to revisit that vision and look at, can we be 6 or 8 or 10 billion gallons, making a huge difference here in this country and bringing clean fuels to these transportation markets that are really looking to decarbonize. So I'm excited beyond measure about the future of this industry.
Clean fuels and a market for farmers. It's a win-win all the way around. Donnell Rehagen, CEO of Clean Fuels Alliance America, thanks so much for joining us this week.
Yeah, thank you.
You can learn more at cleanfuels.org. No shortage of interesting things happening in the world of agriculture, folks, and we'll continue to cover them right here. Be sure to join us next time, same place, same time, for This Week in Agribusiness. Take care, everyone.
This Week in Agribusiness has been brought to you by Case IH. Solutions for every challenge. Equipment for every farm. Case IH, built by farmers. This Week in Agribusiness is produced by 22 Creative Group and has been a presentation of Farm Progress Broadcast. We invite you to visit us online at agbizweek.com.